Good evening, everybody. How's it going? Little late tonight. No chat this week. No chat next weekend either with Rasa. Now that I'm back to being like a fucking contract by contract worker. It kind of, you got to take work when you get it. So I'm working next weekend, doing shit this weekend. So we won't be back doing our Sunday chat for another 2 weeks. So not this Sunday, the Sunday afterwards. Hopefully we're back in the afternoon on one of our channels. So you can tune into that. I haven't read a boatload this week, but I read a good chunk. There's still some stuff to talk about. We also watched the second of the Roy Andersson trilogies. It's called You the Living, I think is what it was called. Hello 420, how you doing? Just lurking past my bedtime, folding laundry. Perfect. Lurking is good. What did I thought I saw something for you today. I was at 204. I don't know if the last time you've been at 204 Comics, but I feel like there was something in those 50-cent bins or dollar bins that reminded me of something you talked about in a video, but I'm just blanking on what it was. So it might be worth, if you haven't been to 204 Comics in a while, it might be worth going. They've got 50-cent and $1 bins, as I'm sure you're well aware, to have a dig through, because I think there was some shit that maybe you were talking about recently. Anyway, that's an aside. We watched the second of the Roy Andersson films. So it's this trilogy. This one, I think his first one was 2000. Then the second one that we watched yesterday was 2007. And then the third one is 2014. This one was much more confusing than the first that we watched. I felt a little unsure throughout the entire thing. Not a bad thing, but I felt like I was trying to grasp onto like an overarching theme that I just couldn't kind of grasp onto. I did some reading on it today, just kind of, what people have said about it and some of the themes that people think he was kind of playing with, and it made a little more sense. There's still a lot of ambiguity in it. That said, though, the guy is a phenomenal filmmaker. The sets are incredible. There's a YouTube video where they go behind the scenes of that particular film, and he does a lot of like matte painting to fill in. Well, maybe not a lot. They show a couple of scenes where there's a lot of matte painting that makes up the rest of the frame, the rest of the image. It's pretty impressive because it's really seamless. So because all of his stuff is kind of one shot and it's just very still, what they do for this behind the scenes is they'll start to move the camera back on a dolly to kind of reveal the edges and things. And that's when you see images kind of separate from their background. Really impressive. Really, really cool. I get there once a year. I'm on the other side of town. Okay, maybe they definitely had Sisterhood of Steel, but it was something else though. Built a set from there. I think I could build a second. Got Scout #1 and some Shatter from those bins too. Oh, amazing. Scout is a fantastic series. Scout War Shaman is really good too. Shatter is pretty fun. It's been many, many years since I've read that, but yeah, those are good. I've never actually read. I have Sisterhood of Steel as well too. I've never actually read it though, to be honest. So I couldn't tell you much about it. Daryl D, how you doing, man? Nice to see you. So tonight's a little late because we got into playing a bunch of music upstairs and went down this kind of 90s rabbit hole, which I don't often do, and listen to bands I haven't listened to in a long time, like Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots, Deftones, stuff that I was into at the time. The thought that came to me as we were doing all this is Soundgarden. And when I first heard them, it was 1989 with their Louder Than Love. I've been listening to Soundgarden since then. It's probably one of the only bands from that era that I still revisit. I don't really have, as much as I loved Nirvana, and I loved Nirvana, I don't have urges to listen to their music. I loved Alice in Chains. I don't have urges to listen to their albums. Soundgarden has always been a constant throughout my life, which is like, it just kind of struck me tonight as I was listening to some Soundgarden and going through some albums. There was talk last year at this time that the band kind of had a deal with, they came to a deal with Cornell's wife, or, well, no, I guess they were still married when he died. His widow, I guess is the term. And they talked about releasing 7 songs that were recorded but previously unreleased. So they came to some agreement. I was doing a little bit of digging, but I haven't found those songs. I'd love to hear them. Gore Vidal, how are you doing, man? Seeing you all over the place, guesting on people's channels. It's fucking awesome, dude. I haven't watched the whole videos, though. You were with, what was it, Garage Geek, I think his name is. And then you're with Howler Mouse. And Howler Mouses I usually kind of tune into and sort of watch on the rewind when the stream is done and kind of skip through things. I haven't sat and done that yet, though. So it's just amazing to kind of hear that music and hear like the longevity, and then just kind of come to that realization for myself. It's like, holy shit, that's a pretty good marker of an incredible band that I've been listening to them for 35 fucking years, which is mind blowing. And I have very vivid memories of that first Soundgarden tape, that, or the Louder Than Love. There was an album before that. There was some things before that, but Louder Than Love, kind of like their first kind of explosion onto the music scene or whatever. And I have memories of that tape. I've still got the tape, playing it for friends of mine, and nobody else being as into it as I was. I remember playing it a lot on my Walkman, but still incredible music. So that's the movies, that's the music. Let's talk about what we read. So for the first part of the video, I got to do a, yes, much of it was talking about music on both channels. Well, that's very cool. I'll definitely have to check that out. Let's talk about Mr. Colin Blanchett and his amazing gifts to me over the last little bit. I'd shown this one off before, this Quality Pictures here. It's a freebie. It's put together by Josh Pettinger and Simon Hanselman, but they've also got like Nate Garcia in here. Charles Burns does a piece in here. Alex Graham does a piece in here. Anna Hayfish, Sammy Harcum, Jasper Jubinville, Noah Van Sciver. This is a hell of a little free, and it was free from a comic expo. Where the hell was it? I don't remember which one it was. Small Press Comics Convention or something like that, maybe. I don't know how the hell they did this, put this together, let alone getting somebody like Charles Burns. I don't know if this was a previously published Charles Burns piece or not, but it's a really fun little comic. I'm not super familiar with Josh Pettinger's stuff. I do like his style. This was a pretty funny little piece about his neighbor and going to see her art show and kind of walking around and looking at all the paintings, and all of the paintings have sort of a representation of him in them, whether it's him as a Nazi, him getting pissed on, you know, that sort of thing, or him has a head that's the human ashtray. And then at the end, him leaving and saying, I don't understand art at all. So pretty great. The Hanselman piece is pretty good. I need to read more Hanselman. I haven't read anything by him. This is the first thing that I've ever read from Simon. I'm looking forward to checking out some more as she goes on a trip. This owl coming back from the bar and striking out, and clearly he's still horny because all of his word balloons have dicks attached to him, which I thought was pretty funny, pretty clever. Yeah, so it's a really fun little zine. Here's the the Nate Garcia piece in here. Really, really great little zine. I'm amazed that they were doing this for free. I don't know how they pulled this off. On one of their manga chats after that festival, they talked about they already saw some of these pop up on eBay and people selling them off, and I'm sure making a boatload because it's such a you had to be there to get it. I don't think you could order it directly from them. It was one of the, like, a convention exclusive. So huge shout out to Mr. Colin Blanchette for for sending a copy my way. This one had me laugh out loud. I think this is Noah Van Sciver. It's you can see the name of it there. So you go through the whole strip, and at the end, in the last panel, the character says, "Now say it out. Now say it aloud. Hoof hearted." So I actually said it out loud, and it's hoof farted, and I actually lost my shit and tear because it didn't occur to me. I'm so slow that it didn't occur to me throughout the entire strip that was the joke until the very last panel, and saying it out loud in my basement by myself and then laughing like a complete fucking idiot. It was pretty wonderful, actually. It was pretty funny. So yeah, very, very enjoyable to read this. Yeah, I mean, I imagine they just use their own funds, I'm guessing, to kind of pay the artists, or maybe there was people that contributed some stuff. I don't really know what the backstory is with this one, but I'm glad that they were able to pull it off. It's a hell of a thing. Here we go. It was a freebie for Short Run Seattle last year. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you very much. Hello, Brandon. Yeah, it's staying with me regardless. Even, you know, it's kind of, I get it. I think it's kind of shitty to go to a festival like that, get a free comic, and then turn around and try to make a profit off it yourself when you had absolutely nothing to do with it. But hey, man, I ain't criticizing. It's just my idea on it. And then he also sent me, is there any addresses on this? No, there's not. He sent me a letter, and I was jealous of, I'll just give you a sample, make sure that I don't share his address. It was a nice piece to have. He has his own little stamp on the back, which was kind of jealous of that, to be honest. So I may have to do that myself. So there's a one-pager Comic City. And on the front side is interview with Pete Bagg. And then Colin has half a page on here doing some reviews of some comics, along with somebody doing a column, Kelly's Corner, and her name is Kelly Froh, F-R-O-H. So that's amazing. So shout out to Colin, our man of the Canon Zine, which hopefully that next issue comes out soonish. We'll see how it goes. But very nice of him to send this along. So I guess this is something that you can pick up at comic shops in Seattle there. So very cool to get that in the mail, to see that kind of thing still exist. Not much else to say about it beyond that, but Colin Blanchette, good work. So those will stay together. I was at 204 Comics today to see if I had anything on my pull list. I didn't. So I had to dig. Like I always do. I go maybe once a month. Although this time I think the last time I was there was only 2 weeks ago. So that's unusual for me to be there that often, I guess, within a month. It's usually kind of once a month that I make it out there. And I always end up going through the 50-cent and dollar bins, even though 90% of it I've seen now a number of times. But I always go through it because there's always stuff I miss in the past. They're always putting in new stuff from collections that they're buying. So it's always worth kind of taking a dig. And I'm really glad I did this time, because I don't have the other one with me, but I found 3 Tundra sketchbooks in there for 50 cents a piece. The other one is, what's his name from Puma Blues? Shit, man, completely drawing a blank. Someone will mention it in the comments, I'm sure. Anyway, so there was 3 issues, kind of beaten up, 50 cents a piece. You can't beat that. Damn it, Zuli, thank you very much. I was hoping I would get there before somebody said it, and my brain is churning. Yeah, Zuli, that's exactly who it was. So Rick Bryant and John J. Muth, their contributions to the Tundra Sketchbook series. It's volume 4 and volume 7. These are amazing. I guess because I'm not the greatest with names, thank you very much, Gorvidal Zuli. Because I'm not the greatest with names, I didn't realize that John J. Muth was the artist for M and Moonshadow, amongst a couple of other things. His sketchbook, honestly, was kind of out of the entire series so far. It was maybe the least interesting. It wasn't horrible, but it just didn't kind of grab me like some of the other sketchbook stuff did. He's got some big paintings in here, and then there's also some photos of him working on paintings that aren't complete. And those are great and all. Like, it's nice to see that stuff, but it didn't kind of capture me. I feel like it wasn't put together as well as maybe some of the other ones. There's nothing wrong with his art. He's a great artist. He's not somebody that kind of pops to the front of my mind, though. Hence the seeing his name and not remembering that he was involved in two comics that I do enjoy. M is something that I enjoyed when I remember reading when I was a teenager, and really digging it. I think one of those had a flexi disc in it as well too. And then Moonshadow I've read within the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years or something like that, since I've had the channel, and really enjoyed it. Actually, Moonshadow is a hell of a good read. So this was great, but this one, pardon me, this Rick Bryant one, I loved. This is probably, with the Rick McCollum, I think this is one of my favorites of the series so far. His style is amazing, and I love the layout of this book. I love the way it kind of transitions, not through like, it's not really by era or anything, but it's by style. And we start off the book where, as soon as I open it, you get this just brief little introduction here to him as an artist. And then you get this very kind of abstract, rushed, or it was abstract at first until I really sat and took a look at it and saw that there was a nose and a mouth, but it did take a bit to register. And that's kind of how the rest of this book is laid out. We get these very rough, but beautiful illustrations that are just kind of almost dry brushed, or a Sharpie that's losing its ink or something. But like, look at the use of all this kind of blank space here, I think is beautiful. And the way he kind of carves out these figures, I really, really dig. Like something like this, I think is fantastic. I love the strokes to make up the face there. Are really just beautiful, just as a line. And then this here too, Mythology of an Abandoned City is my favorite Muth work. Okay, cool. I'll have to check that one out, Gore. So it kind of goes from there. We get a lot of black and white work that's very kind of portraits, and some nudes and things before it kind of starts to develop. And as we go through the book, each page is almost a little more developed than the last one, with some exceptions, obviously. I love this page as well too. I think that's really nice. Looked at this one for quite a long time, because you can almost, it's with stuff like this where you can almost see their hand moving and making up the piece, and how it's moving across the page, and kind of just kind of how the artist is planning it out, seeing those edges, working within the borders and things. It's really beautiful. And then there's a couple here in the insert rather. We get a few pages that are on like a glossy paper stock. So the rest of this is kind of your standard for this era of comics. It's a little bit thicker. It's not quite just the thin newsprint, but it has that kind of texture. And then this is a little more glossy. So we get a few pages of some glossy work there. Which is still incredible. And then we get these kind of blew me away, man. This is amazing, as absurd almost as it is, with just these nipples hovering in the air. I love these pieces a hell of a lot. It's really really nice stuff, man. Like this is a stunner right here. It's one of those books where I think this will be one of those that I won't be able to pass up if I see it in a dollar bin going forward. I'll probably always end up picking it up because amazing book. And then we get almost this kind of vintage absinthe ad kind of layouts here. These French liquor ads, and then some more kind of complete pieces, which are beautiful. But honestly, I'm a big fan of the first half of the book, and then this later, the stuff that's coming up right away of like samurais and things. I love the black and white stuff more than kind of the complete color pieces. Again, look at these here. It's great. Just the figure poking out from the bottom of the page. Incredible. So this is a stunner. This should be high on your list if you're lucky enough to be able to find some Tundra sketchbook stuff. I would say that, you know, if you find some and you only have $1 in your pocket, pick one up. Yeah, 50 cents, man. 50 cents for this, 50 cents for the Muth, and then 50 cents for the Zuli one. But the Zuli one is beat to hell. I bought it anyway because I can't leave it there. It's on the stack to eventually go to Rasa in a future kind of mail out. But I couldn't leave it there. So I'm getting actually surprisingly close to completing that sketchbook run. I think I might need 3 or 4 more issues. So pretty damn close there. Yeah, such a great idea. I want to pass those on to my son. My son is at a college and he's doing a 2-year course on design. And what they've started doing recently is they've had live models come in. So they had a woman come in last week, or 2 weeks ago rather, and a man come in last week. And they have these assignments of like, they have to do drawings of their own hands. They have to do portraits of people in the class. And then they had these people come in so they could work with like a live model with different poses and things. So I'd like to pass some of this off to him just to kind of flip through. I don't know, maybe it'll give him some sort of inspiration, or I'm sure he's exposed to a lot of amazing art in that class by his other classmates. But I think it probably helps always seeing some kind of how another artist tackles these kind of things, right? And how they kind of get the general ideas and the general shapes and the lines down on the page. So I'll pass those off to him. Everything is in Canada. Here the talk is about Wolverine and Deadpool friendship bracelet. Promo to appeal to the Swifties. Jesus, that sounds like a nightmare, Gore Vidal. You know, you can come up to Canada. Come and, as I've said before, you can come and live in our house. We'll have you. We'll get you a nice corner in this room here. Set you up a little cot. So Isago Yojimbo. This is the final issue from the Ice and Snow Ice and Snow, not joking. Yeah, no, I'm not joking either. Come on up. I understand you're not joking about the conversation for sure. I believe it. The shit that people talk about is ridiculous, or that they think is important. This was a good issue. It was an odd ending for a 5-issue miniseries that almost didn't surround anybody except for Usagi and his cousin. It was an odd one. It almost feels like the next chapter, like a one-off story in a next chapter, but it's part 5 of this Ice and Snow. It feels like Ice and Snow could have been a 4-parter because there was no real conclusion to the previous storyline. This was a great issue. There's nothing wrong with this issue. I really dug it, to be honest. You know, going into a village and the village not being what it seems is always a good theme, I think. You know, as these wandering samurai. So a good issue. I'm just not sure how it fits in with Ice and Snow, other than there's still snow on the ground. But there you have it. Faceless and the Family. This is issue number 4. the final issue of this first volume. He kind of says at the back of it that it's to be continued and Faceless will return. This is Matt Lesniewski. I'm on the record of saying that I love this fucking book, and that doesn't change at all. I am so not a fan of his storytelling. No offense, Matt. If you happen to stumble across this, it's serviceable and it gets you from page to page. I'm just not as a fan of it. The art, however, is so goddamn incredible that it really just boggles my mind. I love how he, just realizing I was probably yelling this whole time into the microphone, so I apologize about that. I love how he incorporates the text and the sound effects into the images. I love how kind of abstract his pages can get. I love how his characters kind of defy all sense of being human whatsoever. I love how the fabric drapes on them. Everything on here looks amazing, and he has really just nailed this. And I'm so glad, as much as I love Dave Stewart art, Dave Stewart. As much as I love his coloring, I'm so glad that this remained a black and white book. I think it has more impact in black and white. It looks great in color, but I'd much rather open up the book and it be this than colored. I think it would be less impressive. This kind of shows you a little more of what it is that he's doing, as opposed to, not quite disguising, maybe isn't the right word, but coloring can kind of take away some of that, right? And especially for me growing up, reading a lot of black and white books. Black and white is, I wouldn't say my preference, but I do love black and white comics. And obviously, if you've been around this channel, you know that that's the case. But again, I also love color comics too. It's not a one or the other thing. I'm just really glad that they presented this one in black and white and didn't go for a color version. So on the back, it does say that there's going to be a hardcover collection of this on sale in July. I don't know the dimensions of it. I haven't looked into it. I'm hoping that they make it a little bit oversized. It would be a book that, if it is kind of presented in a bigger format, it may be one of those books that I would double dip on just to see that art a little bigger. But we'll see what they end up doing. It's Oni Press is who was putting this out. Any thoughts about Jason Aaron taking over TMNT in a few months? What does Rasa think? Yeah, we talked about it our last chat, which was a couple of weeks ago at this point. I'm probably going to jump on it. I've been thinking of dipping into more modern. I had a look at the hardcover collection for Ronin there, that last kind of TMNT book. I'm probably going to end up getting that at some point. I can't really afford to right now, but that is on the checklist of books to get. And I was thinking about jumping on to the newer Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles anyway, after Rasa had been talking about it in our Sunday chats. I think that that's going to be a good opportunity to really kind of commit. I'm a fan of Jason Aaron. I'm becoming a bigger and bigger TMNT fan as the days go by, and I kind of keep dipping in every once in a while. I'm curious to see what it's like. I've even been looking at like the hardcover collections of Ninja Turtles stuff and, you know, kind of mulling it over to see if I want to dive in that way as well. Yeah, I think that's kind of cool. We'll see what he does with it. And I think Rasa is looking forward as well too. Yeah, the last Ronin books are very good. And that's the thing. That's what I keep hearing. And even just flipping through it, it looks amazing. I love that there's some, I think it's Kevin Eastman stuff in there as well too. I think when they're doing flashbacks, possibly. I had to flip through the hardcover a week ago or so. And it looks like good shit. And then finally for tonight, this is The Lonesome Hunters, Tyler Crook. This is book 2. This one is called The Wolf Child. I think it's a 4-issue miniseries. And I really enjoyed the first series of this. I absolutely adore Tyler Crook. He does have a YouTube channel. He seems like a goddamn nice guy. His watercolor painting is beautiful. It's fun to watch those streams. I don't watch them as much as I have in the past, but this is a solid book. And again, it's one of those books where there's absolutely nothing wrong with the writing, but it's the art. 95% of the reason that I'm reading this book is I love every single page of this. I think sometimes you get kind of an artist with a story or a world or even kind of like a genre that it feels like they're made for. And this sort of ghost story, supernatural, not quite, I guess, horror, thriller, or whatever. It feels like this is a world that he is kind of meant for. He's fantastic in Harrow County. His stuff is really good. It also reminds me that I need to catch up on Harrow County because I've only got that one book. Pardon me. But every single page is beautiful in this one. I think all the issues are out. I'm late to the game on this, but I got my eyes open for the rest of them. This was also from 204 Comics, from the back issue bins, not the dollar bins. I think this one was like the $2.99 bins. What he does is he'll put some of the newer comics, so $3.99 American price tag on it. He'll, once the time has come that he clears off that shelf, put them in another bin, knock $1 off of that American price and put that as how much it is Canadian. So this cost me $3 Canadian for this issue. Unfortunately, he didn't have the rest of them. I think it's a smart business move to get stuff out the door. You don't want to be holding on to this stuff forever, especially considering the size of his shop. But yeah, so this is kind of continuing on with the story and the characters from the first volume. Again, it's always these things of, why did it have to be, I don't know, whatever. It's a dull fucking conversation. So maybe I won't go into it too much, but you could just make this number 5 or number 6. I just don't quite get it with Dark Horse where they split up these things into these mini series. I just don't really understand, but whatever. What else to say about this one? I mean, not much else to say about it. If you know the Lonesome Hunter story from the first arc, I think you'll dig this if you haven't read it. If you haven't read Lonesome Hunters at all, I say give it a shot. Even though it doesn't exist in the Harrow County world, it feels very much a part of that mythology and that kind of universe. So it's good shit. Like, look at that image there. Really amazing. So yeah, Tyler Crook is incredible. Love his stuff. So that's it that I've read. I'll just quickly show you the other books that I found today in those bins. 50 cent and $1 book for the 50 cent and $1 books for the most part here, except for a couple of them. One shot called Egged. I liked the cover. I liked the interior art. It was a one shot. I think this was a $1 book. Never heard of it. Know nothing about it. This CEX Publishing, this Sex Publishing. I don't know who the hell they are. But yeah, figured it was worth it for $1. And then I found, which one? Not that one. Not this one. No, it was this one, I think. This one was in the dollar bin as well, too. Rivers of London. Just this one issue from Titan Books. I like the cover. The interior art didn't appeal to me a ton, but it did look like this guy, Gunn. The heck is his last name? Surface Tension. He did a book called Surface Tension. I follow him on Instagram, on Twitter rather. He did a book after that called Coalface. He's a he works in video games, and this is really, really a lot like his style of art, which I do find appealing. I feel like I've seen this series around a lot. What I didn't realize, though, is, again, they kind of fuck you for this one, because then in the $2.99 bins, I found what I thought was issue number 2 and 3 of that same series, but it's from a different story called Here Be Dragons from this Rivers of London universe, I guess. So kind of bummed about that. I was hoping to have the first 3 issues of something, but whatever. I mean, they were cheap enough, and I feel like it's something I want to give a good shot to. So not the end of the world. But then I think I did pass up an issue number 1. Now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, I wonder if they had issue number 1 of Here Be Dragons in those bins that now I've kind of missed, and I'll have to go back for next time if I remember. Army Surplus Comics with Cutie Bunny. This eventually became something that Eclipse Comics put out. I only have 1 issue from this Army Surplus Comics, like the pre-Eclipse stuff. And yeah, I've never seen any other issues around before, so I thought I'd grab it. I haven't read any of the Cutie Bunny stuff for the most part these days. I feel like these days I'm probably more in tune with these kind of anthropomorphic type of comics, so I may end up reading these sooner than later. I feel like I'm in that headspace. But yeah, I mean, it looks pretty good. It's sort of underground comic size. It's a little bit wider than kind of a modern cover. So let's get the proper credits going here. Quagmire. Sorry, let's see if there's any actual credits. There's not. Quagmire. Joshua Quagmire Enterprises. So it's Joshua Quagmire. And then inks by Tubbins. F. Tubbins, I think is what that says down in there. Down in that little signature. So, yeah. Not bad. Just a random book from Eternity. I think this one was in the 50-cent box. I don't remember. Mantis Files. They had a couple of Eternity stuff. A few that I already had, but I don't know this title at all. It's a number 1. It was cheap. The interior art isn't the most promising, even for an Eternity book, but I'm always willing to give these books a shot here. So there's a little peek at the insides there. And then last but certainly not least, I only need book number 3 from this one now. This is Aliens Hive with Kelly Jones art. I've got 1, 2, and 4. Just got to try to find a copy of number 3. Kelly Jones is one of those artists that I did love at a certain time. I love his rendition of Deadman. I love what he did with Spectre. I love some of the Batman stuff. I don't know if I love it as much these days as I once did. And I find that even in this one, anything with a pentagram on the cover is worth a shot. I agree, Dan. I totally agree with that sentiment. I think for this one, like, this is, I don't know if this is supposed to be Ripley. I haven't read this one yet. But whoever this main woman is here, she has kind of a build like Deadman, like he did for Deadman, those 2 miniseries, those 2-issue miniseries. And I don't think that it works as well on a character like this. I am intrigued, though, because I do dig some of these Aliens books. I think they're pretty well done. And again, a 4-issue miniseries isn't that much of a commitment to a little story, because you never know. Written by Jerry Prosser, Prosser, and it's from 1992 is when this one comes out. It's one of the ones also that the Kayfabe guys, when they did a video where they looked at some of their favorite Aliens miniseries, and this is one that they spotlit on that, and that kind of turned me on to it. So Hive, pretty nice. A keeper for me of Alien comics. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, I'm very curious about it. I'll probably read this issue tonight, 1 and 2 tonight, and see if I can find number 3, maybe it cover to cover. I think that's it, everybody. Thanks very much. Nice to see you all. Dan Gorvidal, 420. Who else was here early on? Brandon, thanks very much. Daryl D, always good to see you as well. So like I said, no chat next week with Rasa. Hopefully the weekend after that. I should be back Sunday night, though, for another little wrap. It depends on how much I end up reading this week. I agree with your thoughts on Kelly. I just read that Daphne Burns series he did a few years ago, and there wasn't much consistency between the faces. His little girl face looked like an old man. Yeah, I could see that happening for sure. Okay. Thanks very much, everybody. We'll talk to you.